Hello developers, welcome to OctaCoder. Today we are going to dive into building a simple calendar component using React and the power of hooks. It's a great way to enhance your React skills while creating a useful and interactive calendar display. Before we jump into the code, let's take a quick look at what we are going to build. So here we have the calendar that displays current date, and you can navigate forward and backward in time using preview and next button. Then when we click here on the next button, you see that the count increases to 1 and then it says 1 days from now. It is Monday, Jan 8, 2024, while before it was 7. So then when we keep going up, it basically keeps adding this number of days to the current date. We can also go back in time. So like 6 days ago, it was this date. So that's the most basic thing, but then here we can also adjust steps. So for example, if the step is 7 and each time we click on the count next button, it increases by 7. So no longer by 1. So 7, 14, 21 and so on. And then calculation here, that is little tricky part that we're going to learn. Okay, so without a further ado, let's dive right in. So here I am in an empty folder. I have given name date counter. You can also create on your laptop or PC whatever drive you want and just open that folder in a Visual Studio Code like this. Okay. So now I'm going to create a React app by typing command npx create react app in terminal . This means that the project is going to be created inside of current directory, which is date counter. Okay, this is a basic, so I'll fast forward. Project is created, so I'll just clean up unnecessary files. Okay, and I'll give heading date counter or calendar. Okay, save it. Run the application by npm start command in terminal and it will take 1 minute to start. Okay, and there you go. Our React app is running on localhost port 3000 and we have the heading date counter. Perfect. So now let's do functionality first, then we will design it. Okay, so first we will create a new folder in src folder here and give name components. Inside component, create a new file called Counter.js. Okay, so let's create a counter function and return heading calendar in h1 tag. Then export this component so we can import in any files, right? So export default counter. Now in app.js file, let's import the counter component and inside div tag return like counter tag. Save it. Let's check output and it's working great. Now we can write functionality in counter component separately. So let's do. So first we will create a counter. Increasing and decreasing means it's updating. So what we use in React for updating, correct, we use useState hook, right? Let's start by creating count state. So const count and set count is useState initial value 0. Okay, and it will get auto imported. It's because of Visual Studio's features. If some of your didn't import useState on top, then you can write it manually. Okay, but make sure useState is imported on top. And now we need to show this count on the screen. So let's create two buttons. We will give name preview and next buttons. And in middle of them, inside span tag, will display counter values. So count and then count in curly braces. Okay, now let's handle these buttons. So let's create a new function here, handle counter p for previous. Okay, so what do we to do here? So this one here is decreasing the value. So set count is a function that takes c, this stands for count, and it is the current value of the count state. And so then we want to return that count -1 and call this function on the button, add an onClick attribute and handle counter p for preview. Similar, let's just copy and paste for next button. Remove p and write n for next. And here instead of minus, make it plus. So value will increasing and call this function on next button and on click attribute and handle counter n. Alright, save this and let's check output, and it working. When you click on next button, value increasing like it's counting 4, 5, 6, 7, and when you click on preview button, value decreasing. So now let's just also display the date down here. So for that, first let's calculate date. How to do that? Don't worry, I'm here. So let's just define variable called date and then new date. You can leave it like this, or you can pass in string, for example, Jan 7, 2024. Okay, or leave it empty. Okay, now here we can on the date object call the setDate method, and so then here we can do date dot get the current date and adding a value, so that value can be the count. Alright, so we are using now our count to add that count to the current date. So now we can display in paragraph. This part was kind of optional here. What important is you got this date part right. So let's now log date inside paragraph tag and then convert it to a nice readable string. So date.toDate string, if you get errors, that's because of we using two root elements. So for that, put paragraph tag inside div tag, okay, or inside React fragment. Okay, so let's actually wrap this inside span tag, okay, and take another span tag here, and now here let's create that part of string. So if the count is 0, then it is today. So then here we can output the string today is, and if not, for now let's return nothing. Alright, so count is not 0 right now, but now it is, so today is this date. So that's correct. But now as an alternative here, we need to also account for the past and for the future. So we actually need two more different values here. And so here we need another ternary operator here. So basically here we have the else branch, and so in here we can ask if the count is greater than 0, then string should be less use template literal, then the count days from today is, and else count days ago was here, do a math.abs means absolute count. Okay, so now we have this main counter working, and now let's worry about steps, and step is going to be a quite similar. So const step set step use state initial value by default is 1. So because when we click here, we just want the counter to go up by 1. Okay, and now we can just copy paste this because it's going to look very similar. So but here we have the step, and now we can write function here also. Here we return separately. I just wanted to show you another way. If the function is one liner, so you can directly write here on click attribute arrows function set step step -1. Just copy this and paste here, and here plus instead of minus. Okay, save it. So let's see, and yes, that's working. However, if we now click here, then that step is not being applied here. So we are still simply adding 1 or subtracting 1. So how do we now put these two together? Well, as I was saying, by default, we had just subtracting or adding 1 by 1, but that's no longer what we want. Instead, we want to add or subtract the step. So just replace the 1 here, step, and let's see now, and yes, that's working nice. And we can even go negative here. We are actually going into the past, but yeah, that's no problem. Great. That's our main functionality, what I wanted to teach. So now let's do design to make this look more attractive. I'll do little fast forward. Okay. So now we done designing and this looks nice. Great. So that's it for today's tutorial. If you found it helpful, then give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe OctaCoder channel for more coding tutorial. Happy coding!